She sat alone on a cafe bench that wasn't meant for solitude, in a park where laughter fluttered from strangers like sparrows playing in sunlight. But she didn't notice any of it. She could only hear the heavy thud of her own heart beating like a fist against a locked door. She wasn't smiling, but her eyes were begging someone, anyone, to see her. Not the version she pretended to be or the one she used to be, but the broken, exhausted heart she hid so carefully. She wasn't looking for sympathy. She was desperate for proof that she still mattered. Before we go deeper into her story, if you believe every person deserves kindness, love, and a second chance, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It helps more than you know. Her name was Elise. She wasn't unhappy because of one big tragedy. It was 1,000 small heartbreaks that piled up over time. The feeling of being forgotten after trying so hard to be remembered. The way people took pieces of her, her patience, her comfort, her care, and never gave anything back. She had been strong for too long, and strength had turned into silence. Silence had turned into isolation, and isolation had finally turned into doubt. She came to that cafe every day after work. It wasn't special, just a cozy place with worn wooden chairs and the smell of warm bread, but it felt like the only place where she wasn't pretending. She'd order a cup of chamomile tea and sit by the window overlooking the park. Somehow, watching strangers live helped her remember she was alive too. But today, she wasn't waiting for tea. She was waiting for a message that would never come. A message that should have come weeks ago. The man who said he loved her had simply slipped out of her life like a ghost, leaving nothing but echoes. At first, she thought he'd come back. Then she convinced herself she didn't care. Today, she admitted the truth. She missed him more than she wanted. Across the cafe, Leo wiped down the counter. He had noticed her. From the first time she walked in, the girl who always seemed somewhere far away even when she sat right in front of you. He wasn't intrusive, but he paid attention. The little details no one else cared to see, like how her hands always trembled slightly when she stirred her tea, how she pre-tucked her hair behind her ear only to let it fall loose again when she forgot she was being brave, how she forced a polite smile every time he served her, a smile that never reached her eyes. Leo wasn't someone who talked a lot, but he felt things deeply, and he could feel that she was fighting something heavy. He believed everyone who sat alone long enough was waiting for something or someone. And today, Elise looked like she was close to giving up on both. The afternoon dragged, the cafe emptied, chairs lifted onto tables, silverware clinking into bins. Elise stayed frozen in place, staring at her silent phone like it held her last hope. Outside, lamps flickered on, and shadows grew long under the trees. She didn't even notice how late it had become. Leo flicked off the open sign. He hesitated. Then he took off his apron. He walked over slowly. He didn't sit right away, giving her space, giving her a moment to breathe. She didn't look at him, but he could tell she knew he was there. Leo sat on the bench across from her, hands loosely folded, as if ready to catch anything she dropped. A word, a sigh, herself. Elise's phone finally lit up. Her breath caught, then collapsed. It was just a calendar reminder. A reminder of an event the man who once promised everything had planned. A promise already turned to dust. Something inside her cracked quietly. Her eyes glistened in the dim light, fragile like raindrops trembling before they fall. Leo didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't tell her everything would be okay. He didn't push her to speak before she was ready. He just looked at her like she mattered, like she was visible. It was enough. For the first time in weeks, Elise inhaled fully. Her shoulders dropped, as though letting go of a weight she didn't realize she'd been carrying. She looked at Leo, really looked. His expression wasn't pity, it was understanding. He was someone who knew what it meant to be left alone too long. He finally said something, soft and simple, that the world was unfair sometimes, but it didn't mean you were unworthy of something better. She didn't reply, but the smallest flicker of warmth sparked inside her chest. They sat in silence that didn't hurt. For the next few weeks, she returned, still quiet, still guarded, but she no longer stared only at the window. Sometimes she made eye contact. Sometimes her smile didn't feel forced. Leo would place her tea on the table with an extra cookie, pretending it was part of the order. She'd raise an eyebrow, and he'd shrug in playful denial. It was slow. Healing always is. One rainy evening, Elise arrived soaked, hair clinging to her face. She looked embarrassed, brushing raindrops off her sleeves. Leo rushed to the back and came out with a clean kitchen towel. He handed it to her without a word, but his eyes said everything. "You don't have to apologize for being human." She pressed the towel to her face and, for the first time, laughed. A real laugh, shaky but real. She felt like someone had turned the lights back on inside her. They started exchanging small stories, not too personal, not too deep, like two people learning how to trust again. Leo told her about his dream of writing music, but never finding the courage to share it. Elise admitted she used to paint, but stopped when someone told her she wasn't good enough. He told her that giving up on something you love is a different kind of heartbreak, one you choose every day. She went home that night and opened an old box under her bed. Paint tubes, half-used brushes, dried palettes. She stared at them for a long time, hands shaking, wondering if she still remembered how to feel. The next day, she brought a small sketchbook to the café. She didn't show Leo, not yet, but she set it on the table like a promise to herself. The pages stayed mostly blank, but that blankness was hope, not failure. It meant there was still more to be written. Days grew into weeks. Spring tiptoed into summer. Elise found herself returning not because she was trying to avoid loneliness, but because she was finally starting to chase life again. One night, the cafe was busier than usual. People filled every table, laughter spilling over like wine. Elise watched Leo weaving through the room, smiling as he served a group of college students. He looked happier than she'd ever seen him. But when he glanced at her, his smile changed, softer, meant only for her. She realized something. She no longer cared whether a certain ghost from her past ever came back, because something better had arrived. Someone who stayed. Finally had a break and sat down. Elise placed her sketchbook on the table, heart pounding. She flipped it open, revealing a portrait. Him. But not the tired version who worked long hours. Not the man with shadows under his eyes from missed dreams. She had captured him the way she saw him, warm, unafraid to care, strong in quiet ways. He looked like he was seeing himself for the first time. When he thanked her, his voice cracked. Not because it was perfect, but because she had seen the parts of him he thought were invisible. They both understood in that moment that they had saved each other without ever intending to. The days after that were beautiful, not in dramatic, cinematic ways, but in the subtle comfort of belonging. She painted again, filling pages with color she thought she'd lost forever. He wrote music, letting melodies spill into the night. Sometimes they walked through the park after closing. He told her how he'd once loved someone who left without explanation too, how he never felt good enough again. She realized they shared the same scars, just carved in. Different shapes, and slowly, without rushing, without fear, those scars began to heal. Months later, Elise sat on a bench at the edge of the cafe patio, sketchbook in her lap. Leo approached with 2 cups of tea, chamomile for her, mint for him. He sat beside her, closer than ever, their shoulders brushing lightly. The sunset painted gold on the leaves above them, and Elise breathed in the scent of the world she almost walked away from. She wasn't smiling, not fully, but her eyes were bright. They're no longer begging to be seen. They were shining because she had been. She finally whispered something she never thought she'd say again. She was glad she stayed. And Leo told her quietly that he was too. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, share, and tell someone they matter today. Your support keeps this channel alive and inspires more stories of hope. Before we end, leave a comment below. What's one small act of kindness someone did for you that you'll never forget? Elise's story is not about falling in love with someone new. It's about learning that heartbreak is not the end of the journey. Sometimes it's the beginning of finding who you were meant to be all along. It's about discovering that even when you feel invisible, someone out there is looking right at you, wishing they had the courage to sit down and stay. Her life didn't magically fix itself overnight, but now she believes in tomorrow. She believes she deserves good things. She believes that sometimes the person who rescues you isn't the one you were waiting for. It's the one who shows up when everyone else leaves. In the quiet close of the cafe, under the soft glow of street lamps, Elise and Leo remained together, 2 hearts no longer afraid of being seen, 2 souls finding home in each other's presence.